Well, it's about the shape of a Christmas gift box that somebody stepped on one end of. It's got an exclamation mark as part of its formal name, and this one's the color of a sick man's urine. What do you say to a car like that? Turns out, nice to meet you would be about the right line. Let's drive the rather impressive 2014 Kia Soul in and check the tech. Now, the Kia Soul is a car that has never hidden its quirk, never hidden its soul, if you will. But if you think this thing is a joke, the joke's on you. It sells like mad. In fact, the Soul in 2013 in the US outsold the Scion XB, the Honda Fit, and the Nissan Cube combined by another 40%. Put another way, it sells as many as BMW sells 3 Series in America every year. This is a bona fide home run. Let's find out why. Now, inside, this theme of getting a lot for a little is really pronounced. This is one of the nicer looking cabins in a little cheap car you're going to see. Now, admittedly, we are full trim on this car, but here is your 8-inch touchscreen LCD with optional navigation. This is not your base head unit in any Soul, but it's a well-packaged option, as you're going to find that at the end of the piece. It only gives you some basics. There's no 3D bird's eye mode. This is what you're going to see. It doesn't have Google search to nav. It doesn't have any of the really fancy later stuff, but the guts work really well. It's bright, it's colorful, they do a very good job of calling things out at a glance, I think. And since there's no controller, it's touch or voice only, both need to work well. So as you're going to see, as is always the case with Hyundai and Kia, I don't know how they do this, they have the fastest responding touchscreens in the industry. Nobody can touch these people, and I don't know why. And the voice command works well. Inexpensive car, but it still lets you do a big price car trick, which is enter the destination as one blurb. Find address.
Please say the address in California.
235 2nd Street, San Francisco.
You can say start guidance. Try again.
Okay, quick and painless, got it right the first time. That's the way navigation should be. Now let's talk about the media settings. Here's where things get a little bit kind of crunchy. As you can see, we have radio and media divvied up into 2 buckets. I always hate that. And when you go to media, it immediately goes to the last one I was using, but where are my other sources? If I hit media again, I go to this media menu, but that's not everything either, because there are also some apps that you don't see here. So I got to close that. Go back to, I forget, some kind of a main menu. Here we go under all menus, and there I'm going to find Pandora. So it's this scattered mess of stuff spread all over the interface. When you get to Pandora, the frustration continues. Look at that. Works only with an iOS device and only with a cable. No Bluetooth streaming for the app support, and no Android devices, or Windows, or BlackBerry. So super limited for app support. What may be able to save this, though, is that Kia is part of that recent Apple announcement of supporting iOS in the dash. So perhaps the 2015 Soul is going to bring up the iPhone in a really iPhone style, as we've seen previewed. We'll see. Also, Kia's sister company Hyundai signed on in January of 2014 to support Android in the dash, which may then trickle over to Kia. So there are a couple ways this could fork, but right now, this is not your app's powerhouse. Beyond that, your sources are pretty classic. AM, FM, Sirius, HD radio is here, but it's optional. And you've got USB and auxiliary jack. Notice what you don't have. No CD. This is one of those first cars to say, that's it, CDs are dead. Not available, period. This is interesting. The satellite radio automatically records the channels in your first 6 presets and lets you pause, play, and jump segments. I've seen 1 channel before, but not 6 automatically. It's kind of like a high-end multi-tuner DVR. Now let's talk about how you hear your media. We have an optional Infinity sound system with a center speaker, not to be confused with a center channel. As far as I can tell, this is not a surround system. This is just a system with a center speaker. There's an important difference there. And we've also got a subwoofer in the back. Also optional are the speaker lights. You remember these, it's a Kia thing. Rings around the speaker that either glow in colors randomly or follow the music, like one of those weird color organs that Radio Shack used to sell back in the 70s. And here's the knob that controls it over here. You can turn it off, blessedly, or if you're really into it, you can crank it way up. Now, unlike some $80,000 Mercedes I can think of, this guy gives you a rear camera stock, and that's on this trim level, by the way. It's a simple one, though, but look how big and clear and bright it is. That's a very good rear camera for doing what a rear cam's supposed to do, showing you what's back there. You do have some color zones that indicate how close you are to whatever you're about to run into. So here's a key thing you got to know about the Kia Soul. They allow you to appoint it really nicely. That's part of why this car is unusual in its sector. Look at it. Panoramic glass roof. Great big boy you can get on here, as you can see. This wheel is heated. That's also optional, but wow, it gets really hot. Over here, heated and active ventilated front seats are available. Same package brings you heated rear seats. You don't see that in a car like this very often. That glove box, that's got an air conditioner in it. This driver's seat, 10-way power adjustment, though oddly there's no memory for where you adjust it to. But the theme here is little car that can be nice, not just cheap. Now under the short, chunky schnoz of this car, you find the, quote, big engine. This is the 2-liter side saddle inline 4. It is a direct injected gas engine, no turbo, something like that. Just plain old naturally aspirated. The numbers, 164 horse, 151 foot-pounds of torque. Perfectly respectable, especially considering this guy only weighs 2,700 pounds. Now that's 2,700 wind-resisting pounds given this shape. As a result, the MPG is kind of underwhelming. 2338 is the rated on this with a one choice only 6-speed automatic. 0 to 60, eventually. If you drop down to a base Soul, you can get a 1.6, smaller engine, but a 6-speed manual. A different driving experience, some 30 less horsepower, but it might be more engaging, hard to say. Let's get on the road now and see how this package all comes together. Now underway, the Soul doesn't have a lot of soul, to be honest. The horsepower looks good on paper. It doesn't get transmitted all that well. I blame the transmission. I think the engine's fine, but this transmission is real kind of loopy and vague. In fact, both Antoine and myself had to double and triple check the specs because we could have sworn this was a CVT. And that's not a compliment. On the other hand, the ride quality is good. It's not super tense and bouncy and hard like cars in this category can be. All Souls, every single model comes with what they call flex steer, normal, sport, and comfort steering settings. There's an intrusive but not unpleasant engine note. You hear that little busy 4 working, but it doesn't make sounds like, bolts in a coffee grinder like some other vehicles in this category I can think of. A couple other notes. I think you've noticed behind me you've got a lot of greenhouse that you can see out of in this vehicle, so rearward visibility is quite nice. The fact that it doesn't have any blind spot or lane departure or cross traffic tech available is at least forgivable under these kind of visible conditions. Now you've probably heard you can get a Soul for under 16 grand. That's true, but not this one. Once you get into this exclamation mark trim level, we're just over 21,000 base delivered. Now to make it CNET style. You want the Sun and Sound package for $2,600 to get the panoramic roof, infinity sound, speaker lights, unfortunately, 8-inch with nav, HD radio. It's a screaming deal. But really go beyond that and get what they call the whole shebang, which adds to that HID headlights, a center LCD between the gauges, push button start. That's where you get the leather trim, heated and cooled front seats, heated rear seats, heated steering wheel. We're kind of talking about a little baby Korean Bentley at this point. Now what Kia's done here for about $26,000, all loaded up CNET style, is create a car that speaks to the modern market, where they want something very small, quite affordable, but also with lots of quality premium touches that aren't just gimmicks. The tech's pretty good. I think it might get better in the 2015.